Sometimes the truth we've been hiding for years finds its way out at the most unexpected moment, spoken by the very person we were trying to protect. And sometimes that moment of revelation becomes the catalyst for healing we didn't know we needed. There are secrets that families keep with the best of intentions, walls built around painful truths because we think shielding our loved ones from the past will protect them from pain. But those walls can become prisons that trap us all in half-truths and unanswered questions. These are the stories that remind us that honesty, no matter how difficult, is the foundation of real family bonds, that the truth may hurt but lies hurt more, and that sometimes the people we're trying to protect are stronger and more understanding than we ever gave them credit for. If you believe in the power of truth to heal, the importance of trust in families, and the incredible resilience of young people who have been living with questions they were afraid to ask, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about families finding their way back to each other through honesty, courage, and unconditional love. 18-year-old Ethan Cole sat in the interview chair across from the documentary filmmaker, his hands folded in his lap, his expression calm despite the camera pointed at his face, and the bright lights illuminating the small recording studio. The documentary was called Voices of Resilience, a project that interviewed teenagers who had overcome adversity and turned their challenges into motivation for helping others. Ethan had been selected because of his extensive volunteer work with foster children and his advocacy for adoption reform, work he'd been doing since he was 14 years old. The filmmaker, a kind woman named Jennifer who had spent the past hour asking Ethan about his volunteer work and his passion for helping kids in the foster system, was now asking the question that would change everything. "So Ethan," Jennifer said warmly, "what inspired you to start working with foster children? Was there something in your own life that drew you to this cause?" Ethan had prepared for this question. He'd practiced his answer with his parents, a carefully crafted response that was truthful but vague, that explained his passion without revealing the family secret they'd all agreed to keep private. But sitting there under the lights, looking into the camera that would share his story with thousands of people, something inside Ethan shifted. He was tired of the practiced answers, tired of the half-truths, tired of pretending that his family's carefully constructed narrative was the whole story. He was 18 now, legally an adult, about to graduate high school and head to college, and he'd been carrying this secret his entire conscious life. The words that came out of his mouth were not the ones he'd rehearsed. "Actually, Jennifer, there's something I need to tell you," Ethan said quietly. "Something my family has kept secret for 18 years, something I've known about since I was 7 years old but have never been allowed to talk about publicly. My parents are going to be really upset that I'm saying this, but I think it's time the truth comes out." Jennifer leaned forward, her professional instincts immediately alerting her that something significant was about to happen. The camera operator adjusted focus, making sure everything was captured clearly. Ethan took a deep breath. "I was adopted when I was 6 months old, but that's not the secret. Lots of people are adopted, and it's not a big deal. The secret is who my birth mother is and why my family has spent 18 years hiding her identity. My birth mother is my mom's younger sister, my Aunt Rachel. She got pregnant when she was 16 years old, and my grandparents and my mom, who was 24 at the time, decided that the best thing to do was for my mom and dad to adopt me and raise me as their son, and for Rachel to pretend the pregnancy never happened. So the woman I call Mom is actually my biological aunt, and the woman I call Aunt Rachel is actually my biological mother. And I've known this since I was 7 years old, but my family made me promise never to tell anyone outside the family because they were afraid of what people would think." The recording studio went completely silent except for the hum of the equipment. Jennifer sat frozen, processing what she'd just heard. The camera operator glanced at Jennifer uncertainly, unsure if they should keep rolling. Jennifer made a quick decision. "Keep recording," she said quietly, then turned back to Ethan. "Ethan, does your family know you're revealing this today?" Ethan shook his head. "No, they think I'm here doing an interview about my volunteer work. They have no idea I'm about to tell our family secret to a documentary crew. They're going to be furious with me, especially my mom. But I can't keep living this lie. It's eating me up inside, and I think it's hurting our whole family to keep pretending. Rachel, my birth mother, she's 34 years old now, and she's never been able to have a normal relationship with me because we're all pretending I'm her nephew when I'm actually her son. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the secrets and the lies and the carefully managed story we tell everyone." Jennifer, recognizing that this interview had just transformed into something much more significant than planned, asked gently, Can you tell me the whole story, Ethan? How did this happen and how did you find out? Ethan settled back in his chair, the relief of finally speaking his truth evident on his face despite the nervousness in his voice. Rachel got pregnant the summer before her junior year of high school. She was 16, the guy was 17, and when she told him she was pregnant, he wanted nothing to do with it. He was planning to go to college, he had a football scholarship, and he told Rachel to get an abortion or give the baby up for adoption because he wasn't going to be a father. Rachel told my grandparents, my mom's parents, and they were devastated. They're very religious, very traditional, and having their teenage daughter pregnant out of wedlock was like their worst nightmare. Ethan continued, his words flowing now that the dam had broken. My mom, Sarah, was 24 at the time, married to my dad for 3 years, and they'd been trying to have a baby but hadn't been able to get pregnant. When Rachel's pregnancy became known, my grandparents and my mom came up with what they thought was the perfect solution. Rachel would have the baby, my parents would adopt me, and Rachel would finish high school and go to college, and have the life she was supposed to have without being burdened by a baby at 16. Everyone agreed it was the best solution. Rachel got to finish her education, I got parents who really wanted me and could provide for me, and the family avoided the shame and gossip that would have come with a teenage pregnancy. At least that was the plan. But it didn't work out quite as neatly as they hoped, did it? Jennifer prompted. Ethan shook his head. No, because you can't just decide that biology doesn't matter and expect everyone to be okay with it. Rachel gave birth to me, and even though she'd agreed to the adoption, she still bonded with me. She still felt like my mother because she was my mother. And as I grew up, Rachel was always around because she was my aunt, right? She lived with my grandparents through college. She came to family dinners. She babysat me. She was part of my daily life. But she had to watch my mom, her sister, be my mother. She had to watch me call someone else mom. She had to pretend she was just my aunt when every instinct in her body was telling her she was my mother. How did you find out the truth? Jennifer asked. Ethan smiled sadly. I found out by accident when I was 7 years old. I was looking through old photo albums at my grandparents' house, and I found pictures of Rachel pregnant. She was wearing a high school volleyball uniform in some pictures, clearly pregnant but still playing sports. I asked my grandma who Rachel's baby was, and my grandma got really flustered and tried to hide the album, but I'd already seen it. I kept asking questions, and eventually my mom sat me down and told me the truth. She explained that Rachel was my birth mother, but that she and Dad were my real parents because they were the ones raising me. She made me promise not to tell anyone at school or any of my friends because she said people wouldn't understand. They might treat me differently or think less of our family. So I promised to keep the secret. And you've kept it for 11 years? Jennifer asked softly. Until today, Ethan nodded. Until today, I've kept it through elementary school, middle school, and high school. I've lied to friends when they've commented on how much I look like Rachel, which I do. We have the same eyes and the same smile. I've pretended not to notice when Rachel gets emotional at my birthday parties or my school events. I've watched her attend every single one of my basketball games and sit in the bleachers crying with pride, and I've had to act like she's just my supportive aunt when I know she's there as my mother. And the older I've gotten, the harder it's been to keep lying. Especially because I've got to know Rachel as a person, not just as the aunt I'm supposed to see her as, and I see how much this secret has hurt her. Tell me about Rachel, Jennifer said. What's her life like now? Ethan's expression became sad. Rachel is 34, beautiful, smart, successful. She's a social worker, ironically enough, working with teenage girls in crisis. She has a master's degree, a good job, a nice apartment. But she's never been married, never had other children, never had a serious long-term relationship. My mom thinks it's because Rachel is focused on her career, but I think it's because Rachel never got to process giving me up. She never got closure. She sees me all the time, which means she never got the clean break that most birth mothers get when they place a child for adoption. She's stuck in this limbo where she's my mother but not my mother, where she loves me but can't openly love me as her son, where she's part of my life but not in the role she should be. And I think that's broken something in her. I think she can't move forward with her life because she's frozen in this lie we're all living. The emotion in Ethan's voice was palpable now. And here's the thing that makes me most angry about this whole situation. Rachel did nothing wrong. She was a 16-year-old kid who made a mistake, who got pregnant, who made what she thought was a responsible choice by placing me with family members who wanted a baby and could care for me. But she's been punished for it for 18 years. She's been forced to hide her relationship with me, forced to watch from the sidelines, forced to pretend she's something she's not. And all because my grandparents were worried about what people would think, because they were ashamed of having a pregnant teenager, because they cared more about appearances than about Rachel's well-being or mine. That's why I work with foster kids and advocate for adoption reform, because I see how secrets and shame damage families, how they hurt the very people they're supposed to protect. Jennifer asked the question that Ethan had clearly been building toward. So why are you choosing to reveal this secret now, today, without telling your family first? Ethan looked directly into the camera. Because I'm 18 now, which means I'm legally an adult and I get to make my own choices about my story. Because I'm about to graduate high school and go to college, and I don't want to start my adult life built on a foundation of lies. And most importantly, because I want Rachel to be free. I want her to be able to acknowledge publicly that I'm her son if she wants to. I want to stop pretending that our relationship is something it's not. I want the truth out there so we can all stop living in this prison of secrets. My family is going to be upset with me, I know that. My mom is going to feel betrayed, my grandparents are going to be angry, and they're all going to say I'm being selfish and that I'm ruining everything. But I think keeping this secret is what's actually ruining everything, and it's time for it to end. Jennifer sat back, processing everything she'd just heard. Ethan, I need to stop recording for a moment and talk to you about what happens next. This is a much bigger revelation than we were expecting, and I need to make sure you understand the implications of what you're doing. She signaled to the camera operator to stop recording. The red recording light went off. Jennifer looked at Ethan seriously. If we include this in the documentary, it's going to become public. Your family's secret will be out there for everyone to know. Your mom, your dad, Rachel, your grandparents, they'll all have to deal with the fallout. Are you absolutely sure this is what you want? Are you prepared for the consequences? Ethan met her gaze steadily. I've thought about nothing else for months. I know what I'm doing. I know my family will be upset. But I also know that this secret is destroying us from the inside out, and somebody needs to have the courage to end it. If that has to be me, then so be it. Jennifer nodded slowly. Okay. But I think before we move forward with including this in the documentary, we need to do something different. We need to bring your family here and have this conversation with all of you together, with professionals present to help mediate. Because this isn't just your story, Ethan. It's Rachel's story, your mom's story, your whole family's story. They deserve to be part of this conversation. Ethan hesitated. They're not going to agree to come. If I tell them what I want to talk about, they'll just shut it down like they always do. Jennifer smiled gently. Then don't tell them what you want to talk about. Tell them the documentary team wants to do a family segment talking to everyone about how they've supported your volunteer work. Get them here, and then we'll have the real conversation. But Ethan, I'm not going to include your revelation in the documentary unless your family agrees to it. This is too sensitive, too personal. So we're going to give them a chance to have their say, to share their side, and to decide as a family how to move forward. Does that seem fair? Ethan thought about it, then nodded. Yes, that's actually better than what I was planning. I didn't want to ambush them, I just didn't know how else to start the conversation. Thank you. Jennifer smiled. That's what I'm here for. Let's set this up for next week. You get your family here and we'll facilitate a conversation that's 18 years overdue. The following week, the Cole family gathered at the documentary studio with no idea what was about to happen. Sarah Cole, Ethan's adoptive mother and biological aunt, arrived looking professional and proud, expecting to talk about how wonderful her son was. David Cole, Ethan's adoptive father, came ready to brag about his son's accomplishments. Rachel, Ethan's biological mother and legal aunt, arrived looking nervous but beautiful, wearing a blue dress that matched her eyes, the same blue eyes that Ethan had inherited from her. And Ethan's grandparents, Robert and Linda, came expecting a nice family interview about their grandson's charitable work. They all settled into chairs arranged in a circle, with Jennifer positioned as a moderator. The cameras were set up and rolling, though the family had been told this was just preliminary footage. Jennifer started gently. Thank you all for coming today. I know you think you're here to talk about Ethan's volunteer work, but Ethan has asked me to facilitate a different conversation, one that he feels is important for your family to have. Before anyone could ask questions, Jennifer turned to Ethan. Ethan, why don't you start? Ethan looked at his family, all of them staring at him with confusion beginning to morph into concern. He focused on Rachel first, then his mother, Sarah. Last week when I came in for my interview, I told Jennifer our family secret. I told her that Rachel is my biological mother, that I was adopted by Mom and Dad when I was a baby, and that we've been hiding this from the outside world for 18 years. I told her everything, and I told her that I'm tired of keeping secrets and that I think it's time for our family to stop living this lie. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Sarah's face went pale, then red with anger. Linda gasped and clutched her husband's arm. Robert's jaw clenched tight. David looked stunned like he'd been slapped. And Rachel sat completely frozen, tears immediately streaming down her face. Sarah found her voice first. Ethan, how could you? How could you betray our family like this? That secret was private, it was ours to keep, and you had no right to tell anyone, especially not a documentary crew. Ethan's voice remained calm despite his mother's anger. I had every right, Mom. It's my story, too. I'm the one who's been living with the knowledge that my aunt is actually my mother, that my family is built on a lie. I'm the one who has to pretend I don't see Rachel cry at my basketball games, who has to act like it's normal that she's never missed a single important event in my life, who has to lie to my friends about why I look so much like her. This secret has been hurting all of us, and I'm done with it. Rachel spoke for the first time, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan, I never wanted you to feel burdened by this. We kept the secret to protect you. Ethan turned to her, his expression gentle but firm. Rachel, you're my mother. You gave birth to me. You've loved me my whole life even though you've had to pretend to be something you're not. How is forcing you to hide that protecting me? How is making you watch from the sidelines protecting anyone? The only people this secret protects are Grandma and Grandpa because it saves them from having to admit that their teenage daughter got pregnant. It doesn't protect you and it doesn't protect me. It just hurts us. Rachel broke down completely, sobbing into her hands. Linda, Ethan's grandmother, spoke up defensively. That's not fair, Ethan. We did what we thought was best for everyone. Rachel was too young to be a mother. Sarah and David wanted a baby, and this arrangement gave you a stable home with two parents who could provide for you. Ethan looked at his grandparents. I understand that you thought you were doing the right thing. I'm not saying the adoption itself was wrong. Maybe it was the right choice for Rachel to place me with Mom and Dad when I was born. But what was wrong was forcing Rachel to stay in my life as my aunt instead of letting her have a clean break. What was wrong was making everyone lie about our relationship. What was wrong was prioritizing your shame about having a pregnant teenager over Rachel's emotional well-being. And what was wrong was making me feel like I had to keep this secret my entire childhood, like there was something shameful about my existence. Jennifer, the filmmaker, stepped in to moderate. Sarah, I'd like to hear from you. How do you feel about what Ethan just said? Sarah wiped angry tears from her eyes. I feel betrayed. I feel like my son just threw away 18 years of family unity by revealing something deeply private to strangers. I feel like he doesn't appreciate everything his father and I have done for him, how we've loved him and raised him and given him every opportunity. Ethan's voice cracked with emotion. Mom, I love you. You are my mom in every way that matters. You raised me. You've been there for every scraped knee and every school event and every important moment of my life. Nothing I'm saying changes that. But you're my mom and Rachel is my mother, and we need to stop pretending those two truths can't coexist. Sarah shook her head. If we acknowledge Rachel as your mother, what does that make me? It makes me the aunt who raised you, and that's not who I am. I'm your mother. Ethan leaned forward. You're my mother because you mothered me. Rachel is my mother because she gave birth to me. Both of those things are true. One doesn't erase the other. But by forcing Rachel to hide her relationship to me, you've hurt her, and you've hurt me too. Because I see her pain, Mom. I see how much it costs her to pretend. Jennifer turned to Rachel. Rachel, you've been quiet. I'd like to hear from you. How has this arrangement affected you over the past 18 years? Rachel looked up, her face streaked with tears. It's destroyed me. There, I said it. Keeping this secret, watching Sarah raise my son, pretending to be just his aunt when every cell in my body knows I'm his mother, it slowly killed something inside me. I love Sarah, she's my sister, and she's been a wonderful mother to Ethan. But it's torture to be around him all the time and not be able to be who I really am to him. Sarah looked stricken. Rachel, you never said anything. You agreed to this arrangement. You said you were fine with it. Rachel's voice rose with 18 years of suppressed emotion. I was 16 years old. I was a child myself, and I was terrified, and Mom and Dad and you all told me this was the best solution. What was I supposed to say? That I wanted to keep my baby and drop out of high school and try to raise a child at 16? I knew that wasn't realistic. So I agreed to the adoption because I thought it was the right thing to do. But nobody told me it would mean spending the next 18 years watching someone else live my motherhood. The room was heavy with emotion, years of unspoken pain finally being voiced. David, Ethan's adoptive father, spoke up. I feel like I need to say something here. I love my son more than anything in this world. Ethan, you are my son. Biology doesn't change that. But Rachel, I've watched you at Ethan's events. I've seen how you look at him, and I've known for years that this arrangement has been hurting you. I've asked Sarah multiple times if we should address this, if we should give you more space or less space, if we should acknowledge the truth more openly. But Sarah and her parents always said no. We needed to maintain the story. We needed to keep things as they were. So I went along with it because I didn't want to cause family drama. But maybe I should have spoken up sooner. Maybe we all should have. Jennifer, seeing the family beginning to work through their issues, guided them toward resolution. Seems like everyone in this room has been carrying pain and resentment that they've never fully expressed. Ethan, you felt burdened by the secret. Rachel, you felt erased as Ethan's mother. Sarah, you felt your role as mother was threatened. Robert and Linda, you felt the need to protect your family's reputation. David, you felt caught in the middle. All of these feelings are valid, but the question now is, where do you go from here? How do you heal as a family? Ethan spoke first. I want to stop lying. I want to be able to acknowledge Rachel as my birth mother without feeling like I'm betraying Mom. I want Rachel to be free to have a relationship with me that reflects our true connection. And I want our family to stop being controlled by shame and fear of what other people think. Sarah was quiet for a long moment before speaking. I've been so afraid that if we acknowledged Rachel as your mother, I would lose you, that you would choose her over me, that I would become irrelevant in your life. That's why I've held onto the secret so tightly. Ethan reached across the circle and took his mother's hand. Mom, you could never be irrelevant to me. You're the one who kissed my boo-boos, helped me with homework, taught me to ride a bike, stayed up with me when I was sick. Rachel gave me life, but you gave me my childhood. Both of those things are precious. I don't have to choose between you. You're both important to me in different ways. Sarah began to cry, really cry, 18 years of fear and insecurity pouring out. I'm sorry, Ethan. I'm sorry I made you carry this secret. I'm sorry I let my fear control our family. And Rachel, I'm sorry I didn't think about how much pain this was causing you. I was so focused on being Ethan's mother that I forgot you were his mother too. Rachel and Sarah looked at each other across the circle, two women who loved the same child in different ways, two sisters whose relationship had been strained by an impossible situation. After a moment, Rachel stood up and walked over to Sarah, pulling her sister into a tight embrace. They held each other and cried, releasing years of unspoken tension. I don't want to take him from you, Rachel whispered. I just want to be allowed to love him openly. I just want to stop pretending. Sarah nodded against her sister's shoulder. Okay, we'll stop pretending. Robert and Linda, the grandparents whose shame had started this whole cycle of secrecy, sat watching their daughters embrace. Linda spoke quietly. We were wrong. We were so worried about what people would think that we didn't consider what this arrangement would do to Rachel emotionally. We didn't think about how it would affect Ethan as he grew up. We just wanted to fix the problem and make it go away, and we didn't realize we were creating a bigger problem. Robert added, we owe you both an apology. Rachel, we should have supported you better when you got pregnant. We should have given you real options, real support, instead of just trying to hide what had happened. And Ethan, we should never have asked you to keep family secrets. That was too much to put on a child. The family spent the next 2 hours in that studio, facilitated by Jennifer and with the cameras still rolling, working through 18 years of miscommunication, hurt, and hidden truths. They talked about what the new normal would look like, how they would navigate their relationships going forward. They agreed that Ethan would publicly acknowledge Rachel as his biological mother while still honoring Sarah as the woman who raised him. They agreed that Rachel should be introduced as Ethan's birth mother at family events and to new people they met, ending the charade that she was just an unusually devoted aunt. They agreed to family therapy to continue working through the complex emotions this revelation had brought up. And they agreed that the documentary could include Ethan's story, with all of them participating, because they realized it might help other families struggling with similar secrets. The documentary episode featuring the Cole family aired 9 months later, after the family had had time to process their new dynamic and begin healing. The response was overwhelming. Tens of thousands of people reached out to share their own stories of family secrets, of adoption complications, of loving multiple mother figures, of the damage that shame and secrecy can cause. Adoption agencies and family therapists contacted the production team asking for permission to use the episode in training programs, as it illustrated both the complexity of open adoption within families and the importance of honest communication. Rachel herself became an advocate for birth mothers, speaking at conferences about the emotional impact of closed or semi-open adoptions and the need for better post-placement support. She started a support group for birth mothers who had placed children with family members, creating a safe space for women to process the unique challenges of that arrangement. Sarah and Rachel's relationship, strained for 18 years by unspoken resentment and fear, began to heal as they both attended therapy and learned to communicate honestly. They realized that they could both be mothers to Ethan in their own ways, that motherhood wasn't a competition but a collaboration. Sarah learned to step back and give Rachel space to develop her own relationship with Ethan, while Rachel learned to respect the deep bond between Ethan and Sarah that had formed over 18 years of daily parenting. Ethan, for his part, thrived now that the secret was out. He felt lighter, free from the burden of lies, able to talk openly about his family structure. He attended college and majored in social work, inspired by both Sarah's dedication to him and Rachel's career helping others. He continued his advocacy work, now speaking specifically about the impact of family secrets on children and the importance of honest, open communication in families dealing with complex adoption situations. 5 years after that recording session that had shut down what was supposed to be a simple documentary interview, the Cole family gathered for Ethan's college graduation. Ethan walked across the stage to receive his diploma in social work, and in the audience, both Sarah and Rachel were crying with pride. After the ceremony, Ethan gave a speech at the family celebration. He thanked David for being the father who taught him integrity and hard work. He thanked his grandparents for learning to prioritize family well-being over appearances. He thanked Sarah for being the mother who raised him with unconditional love and unwavering support. And he thanked Rachel for being brave enough to give him life, and for loving him patiently through 18 years of secrecy until truth finally set them all free. Both women stood on either side of him in the family photo, both mothers, both essential to who he'd become, no longer competing but complementing each other in their love for this young man they'd both helped create. If Ethan's courage to speak his truth resonated with you, if you've ever carried a family secret that weighed on your soul, if you believe that honesty and open communication are essential for healthy family relationships, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Share this story with someone who might be living with family secrets, someone who needs permission to speak their truth, someone who's struggling with complex family dynamics that they've been told to keep hidden. Leave a comment sharing your own experience with family secrets or with navigating complex family relationships. Let's create a community that values truth over appearances, that supports families through difficult conversations, that believes secrets kept to avoid shame often cause more harm than the truth ever would. Ethan showed us that sometimes the person being protected by family secrets doesn't want that protection, that children can handle truth better than they can handle lies, and that speaking difficult truths can be the first step toward family healing. The recording shut down that day not because Ethan revealed something shameful, but because he revealed something so profound that it required the cameras to stop and the family to process together before deciding how to move forward. That moment of pause, of choosing to handle this revelation with care rather than just broadcasting it, made all the difference. Subscribe and share to encourage other families to have the hard conversations, to speak the difficult truths, to choose honesty over secrecy. Because somewhere there's another Ethan, another Rachel, another family living with secrets that are slowly poisoning their relationships, and they need to know it's possible to heal. They need to know that truth, even painful truth, can set you free. Thank you for being part of this community that believes in the transformative power of honesty, the resilience of families who choose truth, and the incredible courage it takes to say out loud what everyone has been thinking in silence for years.